Aloha everybody, welcome to the Hawaiiverse podcast, a podcast that supports local by tagging the Alawai Canal instead of giving out the locations of our secret zones. I'm your host Kamaka Diaz, and I'm extra excited for this episode. Or maybe I should say extrited, because our guest today told me that she likes to make up some words once in a while when she's not out there being the coolest person ever. If you go to the emoji keyboard and you look up the hammer emoji, that is her. She's a straight up hammer. But besides that, she is a national spearfishing champion, a certified culinary chef, amazing motivational speaker, an award-winning artist, and a sustainability expert. She's been featured in magazines, TV shows, and is an ambassador for brands like Toyota Hawaii, Yeti, Patagonia, Traeger, Olukai, and I think I have to stop there because I'm running out of breath, and I don't have the lung capacity like her and can dive 150 feet underwater on a single breath. Whew. Above all, she's a kind, hard-working, compassionate human, loving wife, and a mother to the cutest baby boy, Buddy, tied for first place for the cutest baby with my niece, Connie. She's the living legend, Kimi Werner. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. And I love the word extrited. I'm going to adopt that into my vocabulary.
I'm actually out of breath.
I really love that.
Did I miss anything?
No. Okay. I think you covered it all and then some.
Covered everything. Cool. How are you doing? Thanks for driving all the way out here.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been downtown.
Yeah. It gets confusing, I know. Yeah. So I think this is maybe like my third time actually like seeing you, maybe meeting you. We met like maybe one time diving with lay guys. I remember we have that picture where I think Perrin took, and like everybody's like 20, 30 feet underwater, and then there's the one guy like 4 feet from the surface, and that's me. And then I think last time I saw you was your baby shower, which is in 2019, right?
And that's when I feel like was the first time I really got to meet you, because we got to talk story and clean fish and spend time together. But yeah, I really appreciate that. Like, we had a baby shower coming up, and you came over early just to help us prepare. And that, if anything, is why I absolutely said yes to this podcast, because when I needed help, you were there for me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so that, I remember that there really vividly. I think it was a really special moment for me, because I just got back from Madagascar in the Peace Corps. And I really like just like those simple things, you know, just hanging out, talking story with people. And I wasn't super familiar with like all the things you did, all the people around there. Like Gooch was there. He's just like an amazing chef. Like I had no idea who everybody was. You know, I was disconnected for a while. So I saw you as Lay's friend, you know, my sister-in-law's friend, not like all the things I just mentioned. And I think that's the one thing that's what I appreciate, or what inspires me the most, is not all those amazing accolades, but like your heart and your kindness and how genuine you are. So that's why I really wanted you on the podcast today.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I do feel like that's the most important stuff. So that is a big compliment.
Yeah. And again, that night, it was super fun, awesome people, but it's funny because like once you disconnect from social media, you don't look at those numbers, because a lot of times you see like the blue check mark, you see 100,000 followers, and you get kind of intimidated because you put those people on a pedestal. So it's cool to, you know, be clueless to that at that time.
Yeah.
And like people like Mark Healy, like I had no idea who he was. Like later on, I'm just like, oh, this guy is also a hammer. Jack Johnson was there.
Totally.
He comes
but
up to
that's
me.
The thing. They're all just good people. Yeah. Jack was there. Mark was there. Gooch was there. But take away all the check marks and sponsors and all that. I was just a woman with a big old belly that, you know, was having a party. Yeah. And I only wanted good people around, you know, me and my baby in my belly. That's what happened. Your sister too,
Christy.
Exactly. My sister.
And I believe like people are a reflection of you know. So that's why I think everybody was just so awesome, because you're awesome.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so we have a lot to talk about and a million Instagram questions. So let's get started. So question number 1, how is it being the coolest person to ever walk the earth?
Is that really your question?
I wrote it down, but okay. I really want to know what your upbringing was like. You know, I know you're from Maui.
Growing up, my earliest childhood memories, I mean, my family was super poor, but that's not my real memory, because I wasn't like associated with status yet at that age, you know. But so I would say my upbringing was just so immersed in nature, and we lived in this little shack that was just embedded in nature, like centipedes, moss, everything nature. But it was awesome. We had a little punawai that ran behind our house that we would swim in, and we had all kinds of fruits and lilikoi and like guava growing everywhere, and my dad would go diving for lobster and for fish, and that's how we lived. I mean, my dad was trying so hard at the time to start this construction company, but it was basically him and a friend in a wheelbarrow. And my mom was a waitress at the Maui Country Club, and she just lived off her tips basically. But yeah, so we were poor. We lived in a shack, but I didn't know any better. And it was paradise. It was wonderful. I had a loving family and so much adventure all around me. And honestly, it was only a few years later when my parents started making money and all their hard work paid off, and we moved to a subdivision, and that I really started to feel like the loss of like, why did we do that? Like, why did we give that up? And yeah, we didn't go diving so much anymore. We didn't get our food from nature as much as we did restaurants and grocery stores, and everything just seemed a little lame to me. I don't know any other words. Like the eggs that we ate for breakfast weren't the same as the ones I used to go get from under the house, and paved roads just weren't quite the same as the bumpy roads with all the dead toads in it, and exploring wasn't as exciting, you know? So it took me a lot of adjustment to get used to being civilized. And then eventually I did. And it probably came at a good age, you know, like I got to go to school, learn to ride bikes, stuff like, you know, make friends and all that kind of stuff. But I think there was a part of my heart that always longed for those super early days because they were my favorite. I loved everything about it. I loved the wild, and I loved when my dad would take me diving. I mean, that was hands down my favorite activity because it was like literally my dad would take me to another planet is what it felt like. As soon as we would get in the water, it was like I was in this world where I could fly, where I could see other creatures, where I could just watch these delicious dinners be brought up from the depths. And it was so just exciting and magical. And I think those memories just always stuck with me. And so, again, I grew up very civilized from like the age of 7 on, like just regular, you know. And it wasn't until I was 24 and was a college, you know, I was graduated from college, I was living on Oahu, that I just realized like, God, maybe I should just try to see if those nostalgic memories can be somehow incorporated into my present day life. And so that was when I picked up a spear and decided, like, I'm just going to see if I can remember what my dad did and do it too.
Oh, so you're kind of chasing your childhood.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I was chasing my childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like I had some major power years and like revelations like on Maui growing up as a kid. And sometimes I do just feel like, no, I was onto something then. I was really onto it and I didn't get to finish it. You know, what was that? So
you think because of, you know, society and like how it is, like, okay, go to school, go to college, get a 9-to-5 job, that's what kind of led you in the path that you were going, but then you realize like, no, I don't want to do this. I'm going to do my own thing.
Well, I did it. And I mean, it's exactly that. Like every time I said, well, I think this is really cool, you know, every adult I knew would just be like, okay, that's not a career. Like, that's not a path to follow. And so that's what you're taught, you know, especially I think, you know, in that generation, that you're just taught like you have to choose this path and follow it all the way, you know, till you get where you need to go. And I went to college. I got a degree in culinary arts because I love cooking always. And then I was working in the restaurant industry. And it was only then where I realized, like, oh, my God, like, there's no more path to follow. Like, I followed it all the way. graduated, and now here I am working in the restaurant industry, and this is the rest of my life, you know. And nothing against the restaurant industry, but I just realized like that deep down inside, I think I was hoping that something would just magically land on my lap and change my path and lead me somewhere better. I just knew I had to pick something and go for it. So I picked restaurant cooking, and I went for it. But it wasn't even the type of cooking I liked. You know, I love cooking to this day, but I like cooking with ingredients where I know the source of them, and then sharing it with people where I can watch their appreciation and people I love. And the restaurant industry I was working in, I was just like working with ingredients that I had no connection to whatsoever, flown in and frozen. And I wasn't even seeing people appreciate it. I was just sending it to a waitress making more money than I was, in all honesty. It just was not, it wasn't really paying off in any way.
Yeah, and it wasn't fulfilling either, right?
Definitely not fulfilling.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. So you ended up picking up the spear and just following your heart, right? Just following what felt pono, what felt right. And like, did you have any influences besides your father, or you just kind of came to that on your own?
Well, I mean, I ended up picking up a spear, and I mean, yeah, following my heart, and then my heart led me straight to fear. I have to say that first of all.
Really?
Like, so just not to make this like such a romantic, and then I just like fell into my destiny. Like, that's not really how it was. Like, I rolled up to a beach one day on the North Shore, and with my spear in hand, I'm like, I'm gonna do this, you know, and as soon as I got
Moana, we're waiting to conquer.
But Moana wasn't even out yet, so I didn't even.
You're the original Moana.
I didn't have like even that to look up to. I just rode up, and if Moana was out, I probably would have felt a little better, honestly. Yeah. But like I got out of the car, and I'm just like, so shame. I'm like a girl with a spear. Yeah. Like
in a male dominant sport.
Like, that wasn't happening back then. You know, like even now, whenever I see like women just like walking with like long freedive fins, I'm just like, wow, like had I seen that back then, you know, but I didn't ever see that. And so I just like rode up, and I'm just like, everyone knows I don't know what I'm doing. Like absolutely everyone knows that. Like it's just weird. Like I'm a girl with a spear and wearing this like rash guard and whatnot, and the fact is that I don't know what I'm doing. And I was terrified, and I got in the water just to I like crept across the beach like afraid, like just like shame, because I didn't want people to see me. And then I got in the water, and it was dirty and everything, and I start swimming, and all of that, like the fear is just getting to me. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing, and every single time, like I just wanted to turn around, but as I kept swimming, like I just remember like at one point, like this little wave broke off in the distance, and it made these bubbles, and when I saw these bubbles, like it just like calmed me. And I realized that as a little kid, whenever I would get distracted and look at a turtle or look at something, you know, and not keeping my eye on my dad, you know, I'd look up and he'd be nowhere, but I'd have to search like very, very hard for the bubbles left by his fins. And if I could see that, it would comfort me. I'd know which way to go. And so I just finally kept swimming, and then I did come across a reef, and I did find these little fish. And after like hours of trial and error, I was able to get some. And that day is coming home with like a couple kole and a hole hole and like a menpachi. Like I just remember feeling like such pride. Like I did it. Like that was, I mean, it was stepping into my destiny, but I just have to say that like it didn't come without these inhibitions of leaving your absolute comfort zone and feeling like a total like kook, you know? Yeah. And I just feel like that's an important thing to say, because I feel like that is something most of us do have to
very
cross
relatable.
Over.
Yeah. We're, I think especially in your mid-20s, you know, going into your early 30s, you're kind of just lost and figuring out.
Totally, I was,
like what I do, or like, am I gonna be judged? So many anxieties and fears and stuff, and you kind of just learn to get over that by just doing it. Yeah. So I was gonna ask, like, were you always fearless? But apparently you weren't.
No, fear to this day is a very close friend of mine, and like fear shows up constantly at my doorstep, but I think that's the difference, is now I recognize fear as a friend instead of an enemy. Like, it's so easy to just be like, oh God, like there's fear. I'm going to run in the other way because fear is going to like show what an imposter I am. Fear is going to show that I'm no good. I better like, you know, fear is this big bully that's going to put you in your place. Whereas now I'm just like, oh, I'm scared. Okay, cool. Like that means that me and fear have to like get together again and sort this out, because something always like happens when we do, you know, like, and I think it's always a good thing. Like you always learn something when you do. About
yourself and like about others, just being put in those situations and kind of just like conquering your fears. I think that's... Yeah,
it can be conquering, or it can be the most humbling thing. Accepting I have to say that. Like, it can be humbling. Like, you don't always meet up with fear and conquer it. Like, sometimes you meet up with fear and fear just puts you right back on your ass, you know? But to learn to love yourself and your intention throughout that, I think that is the most powerful thing, is to be able to pick yourself back up again, be your own best friend, recognize that intention, and just say, like, you know, can I embrace this? Yes, I can.
Yeah. So is that a skill you think that people can learn? Or
totally.
How much of that do you think it's innate? Just kind of being that fearless and like adventurous person?
No, I think it's something that people can learn. I definitely do. Like, I know that I am innately tenacious about things. Like, when I want something, I am like that bulldog that has a hard time letting go, you know? Yeah. But at the same time, I can also be like a super timid person in so many ways. And so I do think it's just a very human thing that we all can learn. It's like facing fear. I do believe that it is part of our human experience that we are all supposed to go to, like, for some sort of transformation. I do believe that. And so I don't think it's innate at all. I think that, yeah, for some people, they might have different tactics or whatnot, but I think it's the overall... You know, the great thing that levels us all is that we all are scared. Yeah. We all are scared about something, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's about facing it and not running away from it. Because, like, I remember watching your TED Talk in Maui when that great white shark came by you. And you didn't, like, turn away. You didn't pretend to be shy. You were the huntress. You were,
yes.
You know, it's like you're making your body big, like when you see a bear. Can you talk about that? Because... I would say 99 out of 100 people would freak out and turn away and swim away, but you were calm.
Yeah, but that reaction. So yeah, basically I did, I did encounter this great white shark, and a very, very close encounter. And when that happened, I mean, it's almost like a blackout blur, where your brain leaves the building, but all I remember is my body swimming towards the shark, and before my brain could even catch up, the shark then kind of veered off, and then every single time she came back, because she kept coming back to check me out, like I already had this confidence because she veered off the first time, and so every time she came back, I just realized, like, swimming away is not going to help this situation. Swimming away is going to look like prey. Swimming towards her is like holding my ground. And the more that I calmly swam towards her, the more we did develop like this dance, this relationship. I don't know what you want to call it, but but before long, like, she was just doing these circles and coming up, and I was going down, and we just swam together so many times, and it was definitely just like the experience of a lifetime.
Crazy. You guys have to go to YouTube or just Google Kimi. Like that, the video is amazing.
It was peaceful. It was beautiful. It was great. Yeah. But it was built off of so many other like perceived failures. Like, I wouldn't have been able to react like that if it weren't for freaking out so many other times. Every time I saw a little shark, not a great white, but just like a tiny little shark, and I would just like let go of my fish. I was spearfishing, whatever, and lose my fish, lose everything, and finally, it's like that's why I don't think that failures are like as bad as people think they are. I think they're just these like awesome gifts of lessons that are like telling you, look, I know it felt like all the stars lined up and you just blew it, but actually the stars are going to line up so much bigger than you can ever imagine, and I'm just here to show you how you're really going to do it.
Love that.
It's true. Like I've cried myself to sleep over like, it sounds so silly, but like fish that I missed or whatever, because I just felt like, everything in the universe lined up and gave me this opportunity, and I just monkeyed out and just like blew it. And it's like, no, like years later, I realized that something even greater came, and I knew how to respond to it because of tormenting myself over those failures. So now I don't torment as much, but I definitely reflect and learn and say, okay, thanks. I'm gonna get this next time.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, reflecting and like thinking back and seeing like, what could I have done better? How do I improve? Because if you don't learn, it's still a mistake.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yes. Oh, completely.
Yeah, so that's awesome. Very inspiring. Very inspiring. Kamaka. Yeah. So going back to your career a little bit, so you started getting into the water, and then you ended up becoming a U.S. national spearfishing champion.
Yes.
And how after you sounded so timid and not so confident going out in the sea the first time, and now I don't know how many years later you're champion.
It was 3 years after that first experience, and so after going out and learning to get some fish and whatnot, because I really wanted to learn to dive, and I would see people who were divers, and I'd always ask them like, can I come? And I wouldn't get calls from them, and that's why I ended up going on my own, was because there was just no other opportunity for me. But once I started like showing up to barbecues with my own fish, then I was taken a lot more seriously, and then I got partners, and from every single partner I learned stuff, and soon I fell into the hands of these guys who were past national champs, and were just like these awesome men of Hawaii who just like, I can't say enough good about them. They're humble, they're selective, they're just so talented, and they saw my potential. They took me under their wing, and I got to learn to dive from them, like take my diving to another level from them. And so after about 3 years, I just realized like I want to follow in their footsteps. I want to see what I can do on a national level. And they always tell me like, okay, Kimi, whenever, you're ready to do a national championship, you let us know. And so I told them, I'm ready this year. And they're like, no, not this year. I was like, why? And they're like, because nationals is in Rhode Island. They're like, girl, just wait. Like, wait till it comes to Hawaii and you're in your backyard, Like, you'll do so much better. Wait till it comes to California, and it's just like, it's not as much of a plane ticket, because I was broke as can be, too. Yeah. And then this one mentor of mine, Andy, he's just like, I know everyone's telling you that, Kimi. And he's like, but to tell you the truth, like, if you feel that you're ready now, that's all that matters. Like, if you're ready now, you got to act now. And I was like, okay, Andy, then you'll be my partner, right? He's like, no, I got to work. And but finally I talked to his wife, and we like both strong-armed him, and he became my partner. Nice. And so together we went to the national championships, and he was like, but here's the thing, like, I don't have a lot of time off. I'll give you like a couple days. And so we got there like just a few days before the tournament. Like, typically, if you're going to go do a national championship, you want to get there like a couple weeks to a month in advance and understand this ecosystem. Mm-hmm. Andy and I rode in 4 days before the tournament.
Crazy. Yeah,
it was stormy too that day. So we only had like really 3 days of scouting. And we just went for it. And then the day of the tournament, though, like, I can't even explain it. Like, that was a remarkable day. Like, as soon as it was a kayak meet, so you get into these kayaks and this horn blows, and then as soon as the horn blows, you have 6 hours to go within this like 6 mile radius, and and come back over the finish line 6 hours later. And as soon as I started paddling this kayak, and it was like, almost all men, right? Yeah. So I just remember like, and I'm not trying to sound conceited, but I just remember like paddling upwind and just like walking on all these dudes, like just pulling ahead. Yeah. And it just felt
different in Hawaii.
Exactly. It just felt so good because I'm like, wait a minute. I was a canoe paddler in high school.
Yeah, everything was just coming together in that moment.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it wasn't a me thing, but it was a Hawaii thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like, dude, we got trade winds that you guys don't even know about. Yeah. Like, and as I was like just walking on them, and I was kind of like, I'm not trying to sound like this, but like, I was watching them kind of mentally crumble to see this like girl passing them by. Yeah. And before I knew it, I was at the head of the pack, and it was just like, it just was one of those days that I don't think I've experienced much like this before, but it just felt like everything I've done my whole life was like geared to lead up to this moment, and I didn't even know it, you know? But like, I'm like, oh, this is why I did canoe paddling for like 5 years. Like, that really helped. I got to my spot first, and then the currents were strong that day. I'm like, oh, no wonder like I was a swimmer in high school. I didn't even like swimming in high school. I thought it was a boring thing, like wall to wall from a swimming pool. I only did it because my sister guilt tripped me into it because she didn't want to do it by herself. But I'm like, that's why that happened. And then all of a sudden, I was just overwhelmed with gratitude. I'm like, oh, and this is why my dad taught me this. This is why my mom taught me this. This is why Kale guys and all my mentors like helped me out. Like, and then it was just like an overwhelmingly almost emotional experience of just like thinking about all the people who helped me get to this exact moment where I was. And I swear, Kamaka, it was just like the universe responded. Yeah. And all of a sudden, a 33-pound white sea bass, just like 33-pound striped bass just swam right up to me in the murky water that I could barely see. And I just held my little gun out there like a kook and pulled trigger and was getting towed along. And I mean, this thing like knocked my mask off my face. Like, it was a big fish, and put that thing in my kayak and kept diving all day, and had no idea that, 6 hours later, I'd find out that I was a national champion. But it was a lot of luck and a lot of everything else.
Well, they say luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So
exactly.
All the preparation you did growing up, it's the failure just led to that moment and rewarded you.
Totally.
So
no.
I love that.
It was so cool. Like, I'll never forget it. Like, the coolest thing was that I recognized it in the moment. Like, I just remember as soon as I started paddling and, like I said, pulling ahead, and that was the very beginning of the day. I just remember, like, I don't tell people, that Coldplay song Yellow. It's like, look at the stars. Yeah. Look how they shine for you. Like, I was singing that song, and
everything
it was
in
like
slow motion, background music playing.
It was so slow motion, and I'm just like, literally everything I've done my whole life was leading up to this moment. Like, and you gotta go for it.
So beautiful. They gotta turn that into a movie or something. That's awesome. You ever thought about writing books?
Yes.
Yeah.
But thinking about it doesn't get the books written is what I'm learning. But yes, I think about it. I have so many books I want to write. So many. Like, I actually do have like a children's book that I wrote, but I just I want to illustrate it next. Mm-hmm. But it's like, I say children's book, but I feel like it's an adult's book too, because it's kind of like
adult picture book.
Because you know how I told you, like, you asked me, like, what is a random thing that nobody knows about
to rhyme.
me? I like to rhyme, right? Yeah. So, like, I was going through this hard time in life, like, super hard time, probably my deepest, darkest dungeon moments. And I was processing it all, was like on this boat out at sea for 10 days, and I was writing in my journal. And, like, finally the moment where I kind of, like, released it and got over it, like, I read back that journal, and, like, I ended up, like, going from this super, like, dark writing to, like, almost, like, this childlike rhyming thing. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty interesting. And so I really want this to be my children's book. And I think it would really serve the world. So I need to do that someday because it's written it rhymes.
Yeah.
And I would like to illustrate it. So I got to carve out time for that. I'd love to write a cookbook, and then I'd love to write some sort of memoir about just all the cool lessons I've learned along the way.
If I can write a book, you can write a book. So
I don't know, man. I really, yes, I need to. I need to.
It is a lot more work than you think, though.
It's so much work. Yeah, I'm afraid of how much work it is.
I'm kind of like, I have another book I want to write, but I'm just like, I put that off for like almost a year.
How long did it take you to write?
Well, I had a blog in Madagascar, so I would write posts every so often over 3 years. So I just turned that into a book. So that was easier because I already had content written over a 3-year period and just kind of edited it.
But still, that's 3 years.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, 3 years. So, but yeah, I think people would love to read that. Yeah. So in the future. So we'll talk more about that later.
Yeah, hold me accountable.
Yeah, definitely. So going back to diving, how do you prepare? How do you get good at that? Because a lot of it has to do with holding your breath. And that's something that I cannot, like the most I hold my breath is like when you go through the tunnels and you got to hold your breath and so your wish comes true.
Yes.
Like that's the longest I hold my breath for, and I'm just like, yes, I did it, especially the long tunnels. But for diving, there's so much that goes into it, like free diving, going that deep. Like I can go about 8 feet until my ears start to get really sore. Like the pressure just gets to me. How?
I think it is like it's a meditation that you have to kind of put yourself through in order to really be able to do it. And so for me, what I do is I first of all just try to really spend a lot of time on the surface preparing. And when I say preparing, I kind of just mean like surrendering. I mean, I float. I really put a lot of my intention into floating, and I just say, okay, you have this ability to float, which means that every single one of your muscles can kind of take some time off right now. Just think about that. Like, you don't get to do that on land with this stuff called gravity, right? Like, you're always like straining in some way.
My knees sore all the time.
Right? Like constantly. It's right now sitting up.
I got shoulder pain just leaning over.
I have a very big head. It's heavy. You know, like all this stuff that we carry around every day is heavy, and we have this thing called gravity just working against us. And so when you're on the ocean floating, like, think about what a gift that is, and just surrender your whole body and say, thank you. You know, like, thank you to the ocean, like that you're actually 100% supporting me. And as you do that, like, let every part of your body say that thank you, and say like, okay, feet, relax. You're not holding up my heavy body right now. Ankles, there's no pressure on you. Chill out. Can you chill out a little more? You know, calves, knees, all of you. Like, are you really relaxed? Or are you still trying to do your land job? See if you can relax just a little more. And they always will. They'll give a little more, and they'll say, oh, finally, you know, and just go from toe to head, like, and just really make everything surrender to floating. And then all that's really left is your breath. And then after that, just like use your breath to just take these long, slow breaths and send all that oxygen to every single body part you just talked to. And just be like, there you go, ankles. Breathe it up, baby.
This is like I feel like I'm listening to a children's book. This is so entertaining. Like the way you describe it is like very educational, but also fun.
It is
fun. So you definitely need to get that child book going.
Fun.
Yeah. So is that why when you see people, they're like, every breath they're taking, they're like putting oxygen into different places of their body?
I mean, yeah. I mean, when people are like, they're kind of packing, which means you take a full breath and then you're just like trying to extra pack it. I don't do that, because to me that takes energy. So I'm just like these, like, as slow and relaxed as you can be, but at the same time as much oxygen as you can possibly breathe in, and just like, And then a very important thing too is just like make your exhale even slower. So if my inhale is like, my exhale is going to be, which was probably at least 3 times as long as my exhale. And so, I mean, that's just something I realized like relaxed me. But physiologically, what's happening is that when you inhale, your heart rate actually goes up. And when you exhale, it goes down. So if you also make your exhales longer, then you're gradually dropping your heart rate, which is all good. The lower you can get your heart rate, then the less oxygen like you're burning and the more relaxed you are. So mentally, that I go to this place of just like talking to my body, relaxing my body, telling it to cruise. Physiologically, I am trying to like make my exhales longer than my inhales and making everything just go slow. Again, mentally, as I'm taking these inhales, I'm sending it to all my body parts to reassure them, you guys are going to be okay, and I dove the whole time I was pregnant. So this is also something I did to my baby, where I would talk to him and I would just be like, okay, buddy, mama's about to go down. Like, I'm going to give you all the oxygen you need. Like, all I need you to do is just come with me, relax, like everything I send you is going to go for you. And that's how I tell my muscles too. Like, it's all for you guys. Like breathe in this oxygen. You're all going to be okay. And then anyway, that's a lot of information, but those are all my secrets.
Yeah.
And then I just
you heard it here first on the Hawaiiverse podcast.
It's true. Yeah. And then I just take one last deep breath. And after that, you start your entry into the underwater world. And in the beginning, you do have to kick a little hard because you're buoyant. And as you go a little deeper, you kick a little softer. But basically, just move slow. Move so slow. Like, the basic mentality is for anyone who's beginning is like, you kick real fast. You kick real fast to get there soon so that you'll have more time. And that's just going to burn you out. Do the opposite. Go so slow. And that's why it's important to me to like relax everything ahead of time and tell everything like, I just packed you with so much oxygen. You guys are all able to breathe underwater at this point. Like, just enjoy it.
Yeah. I like what you said in your talk too about when you feel the need to speed up, then slow down.
Exactly.
I think people got to listen to that, not just with diving, but everyday life, especially with this fast-paced society. Maybe in Hawaii it's a little slower, but all around the world we live in this society where it's go, 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 go. Forget to just take a step back and breathe, and that's really cool. Mahalo for sharing that. That's awesome advice. Well, what about when my ears get sore? How do I stop that? The pressure.
Do you equalize?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah. See,
Okay.
I'm a land guy. I love the ocean. I mean, from Hawaii, you swim, but like diving, I'm terrible.
Okay, so very, very important. Like, whenever you feel any amount of pressure on your ears, like, you have to equalize them. And so for most people, you just pinch your nose and blow.
Like when you're on the airplane and then you...
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's like essentially important. Like, from the moment you're even like 1 foot underwater, you should be doing that. And then do it more often as you go down.
Okay, I'm going to try that.
You have to.
Okay, so I learned how to clean a fish from Kimi, and then now I'm going to learn how to get past that 8 feet mark.
You will.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. If that's what's holding you back and you're not equalizing.
I think I'm just kind of content with, just floating at the surface. I like surfing. I'm like above the water kind of guy.
Yeah, I'm the opposite.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you mentioned, you were diving when you were pregnant with your son, and I think a lot of people want to know, like, what was that decision, like, deciding to become a mother and, like, being in the...
Was that an Instagram question or no?
I think a lot of questions are similar to that, but we'll get to that. But I think it's interesting because the career that you're in, it's pretty dangerous. It's very dangerous.
Yeah.
And then, is your mindset different now that you have a son? Do you still do those dangerous dives? Or where's your mind now?
I mean, so yeah, when it comes to like, you know, what made me decide to be a mother, I think it's something I always like kind of knew. I did know. I always knew I wanted to be a mom, but at the same time, I just didn't know if it was going to be for me because I loved my life of high adventure and hopping from one country to another and doing every single time you're packing for a trip, you're like, not to sound so dramatic, but like, am I going to live through this?
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean,
you've done some crazy things.
Seriously,
Yeah.
like from the sharks to swimming with killer whales to just whatever you're going off and doing in the Arctic or wherever. And it's just like, it was always these things where it's just like, it was exciting because it's like, am I going to come back? You know, and am I okay if I don't? And it's like, yeah, I actually am because I'm so curious about this. And so that didn't really seem like the best mindset or environment to nurture a child. And I started to think maybe it's just not for me and maybe I'm just going to, you know, adopt a lot of animals and be like this crazy content woman.
Farm lady.
Exactly. Like, because the thing about getting pregnant, unfortunately, is that there's an expiration date, you know, and that was one thing that was also, I have to say, very frustrating for me is that I, you know, hang out with a lot of dive guys and I could just watch them push back fatherhood until whenever they were ready. And naturally, I'd want to do the same thing. But then I just realized, oh, I'm different. Like, I'm a girl. Like, there's an expiration on my body more than there is on your body, like, to be a parent. Like, and so that was something that was kind of challenging for me too. But anyway, when I did end up, like, realizing I was pregnant, you know, I think I was 39 and I was 39 and I just I just realized how grateful I was to be able to do this. And it came at a point where I just felt like this is the grandest adventure of everything that I've ever done, and I'm 100% all in. But does that mean I'm just gonna give up diving and give up these things?
Everything you've known.
Yeah. Absolutely not. Like, I just can't, you know, like, and it's not like I don't feel like it's a selfish thing. I think it's just more like, I want to be as healthy as I can to bring this baby into this world. And this is everything I know about my health and myself and who I am. And at the frequency that I operate the best at. And if I stop doing this, I don't think that's giving the best to this child. And so I definitely, I kept diving throughout pregnancy. And I, you know, of course was more cautious and maybe didn't go as deep or stay on as long. And I listened, you know, to my body a lot more. But I think essentially it just made me a better diver. It's interesting because it just made me appreciate that I could even do it. And that's why I went. You told me earlier that you saw Lessons from Jeju, the film we did in Korea, and that's why I actually went to Korea. Is because I was scared. Like, that was another big fear factor for me, is that I did dive throughout my pregnancy, and I wanted my baby. Obviously, I just really wanted my baby to come into this world healthy. And every time I went diving pregnant, you know, I just would get so many comments, you know, especially when you live a public life, about, like, you know, how dare you do this to your baby, and your unborn fetus you're depriving it from oxygen, and you're hurting your baby. And one thing I realized about being a mom, for me at least, is to be a mom is to worry. Like, I've always been very good at just, like, shining the negative Nancy's and being like, whatever, you don't know. But all of a sudden, like, when it's not just about me anymore and it's about my baby, I did take everything to heart, and I did worry a lot, and I was always questioning myself, like, am I doing this for ego, and am I hurting my baby? But I knew that wasn't really what was happening, and so I just started, like, trying to look for examples of what I was doing, and I couldn't find any because I didn't see any other freediving moms, you know, and pregnant freedivers, like. And the more that I looked for that kind of stuff, it all just led me to these women, to these grandmas.
In South Korea, right?
In South Korea, to
Crazy.
this like tribe of amazing women who have sustained this island community of Jeju, South Korea for centuries now. Like, and how I just read up on them and read how they dove throughout their whole pregnancy, all 10 months. Some of them having their babies right on the boat, you know. And
when I heard that part, I was like, these ladies are insane.
Yeah. And I'm like, these are my people.
Yeah.
This is who I have to.
I'm finally home.
Yes. I need to go be with these women. And just at the same time, my friend Nicole Gormley, who's the director, is like, are there any stories you want to tell right now? I'm just like, I want to go meet these women, the Henyo of Jeju, and I want to go be with them. She said, okay, you want to wait till after you have the baby? I'm like, nope, I want to go now. So I was like 8 months pregnant when we made that trek to South Korea, and I got to dive with these women like in their 60s and 70s and whatnot, and none of them even flinched an eye at me keeping up with them, because that was their way of life. And it just felt like a beautiful homecoming and sense of belonging. And it was incredible. And as far as like, how does it affect me now being a mom and the choices I make? Like, I don't know. Honestly, I feel like it's only made me a better diver. I think I've always been somewhat conservative and calculated in safety. And now that my baby is outside of me, not inside of me, I feel like I can just do my abilities like even more than before. Like, I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah.
Like, I also have to make use of my time because kids take a lot of freaking time, you know.
I can't even imagine.
And before, it's like a 6-hour day of diving. It was like, all right, you know, let's do this. And I don't have those anymore. I have like 2 hours to go out there and make something happen. And so I make the most of my 2 hours. And it's like crazy, like when you have to become that much more focused at a goal, what you can achieve. And so I feel like it's just made me better.
Yeah, especially with time management.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you taking 2 hours and coming to be on our podcast, because, you know, Buddy's is over there cruising with his babysitter, missing his mom right now.
He's stoked.
He's stoked.
Yeah.
He's like, she's finally
He's
gone.
happy.
Like, I'm free.
Yeah. He loves his Auntie Barb. He's good.
Oh, that's funny. So, first of all, if you guys haven't seen that short documentary film, what
it's a little.
It's on YouTube.
Exactly,
it's
that short doc,
from Patagonia.
and it's called Lessons from Jeju.
It just won an award, right? Or was that something else?
It has won.
It has
award,
won an
so
award. Yeah.
Yes,
it's award-winning.
It is definitely
beautiful,
one of
empowering for women.
Probably my favorite piece that I've worked on.
Yeah, so definitely go check it out. Cool. So, all right, there's just like a million things we can talk about, but I want to know about the how you navigated through the pandemic, because you started a YouTube channel throughout that, because you know that 2020 was a rough year for a lot of people, but there were some highlights, and you know, I'm gonna guess the highlight was having a baby and creating a YouTube with you and your husband.
That was really neat because, I mean, that was another piece of the puzzle I had yet to figure out was, okay, that's cool. You successfully, you know, went diving while you're pregnant, but now you're going to have this living, breathing thing that you have to take care of for the rest of his life, or at least till he's 18. Like, what the heck is your career going to look like, you know? And that's like what a lot of people would ask me when I was pregnant. It's like, well, what are you going to do now? And that was scary because prior to having Buddy, you know, I made a living for myself from working for all these brands and pretty much jumping on airplanes every other day is what it felt like, and going all over the world and doing these adventures, like wearing their dive gear, wearing their whatever, you know, like testing their products, like getting the photos, getting the videos, like, you know, just doing these crazy adventures. That was my thing. And granted, a lot of it was for the environment or for all these great causes, but it still took, you know, traveling across the world and going to these great depths and destinations to get it done. And one thing I realized when I was becoming a mom was I'm not going to be doing that for a little while, you know, for who knows how long.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I want to do. And I don't think it's possible. But even if it was, that's not what I'm looking for. I want to have this baby. I want to stay in Hawaii. I want to grow some roots here. Like, that's a childhood I had, you know.
Just want to give that to your son.
I do. Yeah. I want to grow some roots and give him a home base right here in Hawaii and stay put, like, and live a simple life. And then there was this fear of, well, how are you going to sell that to any of your sponsors, like, that are so used to, you know, being able to go here and there and at the drop of a dime.
But you evolved. You adapted.
Exactly. And so my husband and I came up with this plan. We're like, okay, well, if we're going to stay home and stay put and just stay in our own backyard, like, let's do our own production, you know? Like, let's keep the cameras rolling and let's do what we can do at home. And he's like, what do you want to do? And I said, you know, one thing that nobody knows about me is the cooking side.
Yeah. And I think that's what people love, because you got to showcase your other talents, because you're like multifaceted, just so many talents. But the cooking, I saw some of those things that you cooked. It's like, if you could just reach through the screen and bring that into your mouth, like, I would do that.
Right.
It was so
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah. And also, it worked out with Justin being a videographer, and like, it was
Totally.
Power couple. Right
yes,
there.
Justin, my husband, is a cinematographer, and yeah,
very talented,
super talented, and super supportive, and which is why I love him so much. And so he just said, like, he was the one that actually said, like, you know, Kimi, he's like, everyone sees this, like, adventure, this traveler, this, like, diver. He's like, but I live with you day in and day out, and there's one thing that you do every single day. You don't dive every single day. You don't travel every single day. You don't, you know, do all these things every single day. But 3 times a day, you do this one thing, and then you cook, and you put your whole heart and soul into cooking. And nobody gets to see that. And so I totally was like, yeah, like, I am completely down to stay home and just cook, you know? Like, I mean, I do it every single day regardless. And I'm like, so we don't really have to change our life. Like, we have to roll the cameras because literally behind the scenes, like, no matter what I was doing, no matter where I was, that's exactly what I was doing behind the scenes, was making these meals. I mean, that's why I go diving. I don't go diving, like, for any other reason besides, like, I mean, there's a lot of other reasons, but the main reason is the food and
sustainability,
right? And the deliciousness, right? And deliciability.
Let's go. We're gonna patent that word,
right? And so we just, like, came up with a plan that, okay, we're gonna stay home. We're gonna just, like, do these cooking videos and show all this cooking stuff. And at first, Justin was like, okay, we should probably get a nanny, because there's no way we're going to be able to do this with a baby. And I'm like, no, hell no. Like,
I laugh because I've seen the videos, and I see Buddy on the table just picking at the foods.
And I'm like, no, if we're really going to do this rootsy in our own backyard and show the real deal, like, why manipulate it, like, to a production? Like, let's just keep the cameras rolling and keep Buddy involved in it. And so it was the 3 of us, and we did it. And we gave birth to Buddy in January 2020. By about February or March, I think that was when COVID really came to Hawaii, and things got
mid-March.
So by mid-March, things were locked down. And before we knew it, like, it was mid-March, and we had this, like, channel we were rolling out, and it just so happened that everybody else had to stay home too. Nobody was, like, traveling the world or looking to.
And we had some of the strictest laws or rules put in place, so we were actually stuck at home. I was stuck on the Big Island.
Everybody was stuck at home. Everybody was stuck in their own backyards, and a whole lot of people had to learn how to cook
or start their own business. A lot of people started their own business.
Exactly. So it was pretty cool and pretty timely. And it was really, really neat for me, because I had this whole fear of, like, how am I going to get, like, you know, all these sponsors or brands to, like, keep supporting me, where instead it was just like I had this plan rolling out where everyone kind of looked at me like, oh that's a good idea. Like, can we jump on, you know? And so it ended up working out. And I mean, it was just something we wanted to do. And then once we realized, like, oh, there's a need for this, and more than even the livelihood or keeping our jobs is what we were afraid of losing, but keeping our jobs, I think it was more the organic support that came in. The organic, when I say support, I just mean like caring, not money, caring. You know, the organic love that came in through this channel, where people started writing in and just saying, like, this means so much to me. Like, this is what I only look forward to Thursdays right now because I don't know what to do, you know, or like I didn't know how to cook or whatever it is. This is getting me through these hard times. It was that ended up, even though our goal was like, we have to keep our jobs, you know, like it ended up being something more important than that, because we had a whole community that formed just pretty much saying like, mahalo, like every Thursday we look forward to you. And then that's when we took it really seriously, and we're like, every Thursday it is like, we're not gonna fail. And we have people depending on us. And so every Thursday we're going to be there. And we made a goal that we're going to do it for a full year straight. And we completed that goal. And I think we're still recovering from that. And I think we've put on the cameras a lot since then. And I don't know when we're going to pick them up again, because that was exhausting.
Oh, my God. I understand so much, because during that year, I was also paying off my student loans and documenting everything, doing the race to 50K. Right. And when I finished, I was so burnt out. Like up until like half of, I don't know how mid this year. Can we say that? Yes. We're making up our own words. We can say whatever we want. Mid this year, I was burnt out. And just being able to do the things you're passionate about, get back to like the things that you love is a real like good coping mechanism. And it's stepping away, turning off like the cameras and everything, because I documented my life every single day, like you guys did every single week. It felt so good to get away from that.
Totally. And I think there's coping mechanisms to both of them, right? Because I do think that doing the YouTube ended up being a coping mechanism that I didn't even realize I needed. But like, it can be very easy for me to get, I'm an emotional feeler. So it can be super easy for me to get like really down and depressed on the collective suffering of the world, and just like feel the pain.
You're an empath.
Yes. And like I can go down rabbit holes of that sometimes feel very hard to come out from, you know. But that year, I didn't even have time, because it was like every day I wake up, I'm like,
oh, camera in your face.
It's almost Thursday. I got a video I need to make. You know, it's just like you have this sense of purpose. And I think, you know, Yvon Chouinard, he's the owner of Patagonia. One thing he says is that action is the cure to depression. And so I think that is ultimately true for that year, where there's so much action. I didn't even have time to get depressed, because it's like I had a job to do. And so it was a coping mechanism of its own. But at the same time, when we finally made that year mark, oh my God, was I burnt out. Like, and then did all that other stuff catch up to me.
Exactly. It catches up to you, because you don't even realize when you're like in it, like right in front of it. As soon as you step back and you kind of reflect, you're like, that was crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Why did I do that? Like, it was fun, but I don't recommend it.
It was fun, but I don't know how long I'm gonna take to recover from that.
Yeah. Wow. Crazy. Well, I'm happy that you were able to do that, showcase your family, your other skills, the cooking, of course. Make sure you guys go check it out. Kimi, we got a bunch of Instagram questions. Most of them are like, bring back YouTube. We want more Buddy.
I love it.
So, or like, I love her. Tell her I love her. My sister's friend Kumai says, tell her I love her. So if you're listening to this, Kumai, I did.
Oh, thank you.
I love you too. And now you can Venmo me $5, like you said. Okay, but the first Instagram question comes from Sydney Goward. I hope I'm saying that right, Goward. She wants to know, what has been the most rewarding part of balancing motherhood and diving?
I think the most rewarding part about balancing them has been, like, what we were saying earlier, time management, was to realize like how precious time is, like having a kid will teach you that 100%, where your time is just not your own anymore. And I'm not trying to scare people out of motherhood, but it's like, it's just the truth. Like, when you sign up for this job, your time and your life is not just about you. And so when you do just have like an hour or two that can be completely your time and about you, like, it feels like gold, you know? And it's a gold that I kind of just like maybe took for granted or whatnot before. But it's not a bad thing to me. It actually just makes me so much more appreciative of it. I just realized, like, I have 2 hours to do this goal, and it makes diving much more of a time trial in a way. But I can't even tell you how much more efficient I have become, where I just I am able to focus this much more and like understand my priorities, understand where I have to go, what I have to do, and it's made me a better diver. So that's been really amazing, is realizing that what's been taken away from me has actually been the biggest gift, you know, given to me in how to use my time. And then also the meaning, like it adds so much more meaning to know that this food that I'm getting, I'm bringing it home, like, to feed this little cub of mine. Like, that just makes it all make sense, even more than it did before. It just makes it all the more meaningful, where and it feels very full circle, because that's how I got started, was my parents like giving that to me. And so now being able to give that to my child, it's all the more meaningful.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And before I get to the next one, I want to talk about the sustainability side of things real quick, because, you know, being able to support yourself, your family, like, why do you think more people don't do that? Is it because of laziness? Is it because of we have everything at the palm of our hands, convenience?
I do. I think it's because of convenience. And I think that convenience in our society is a major dictator of everything. And we've become so accustomed to it that it's all we know in a lot of ways. And to do anything different, to do anything like spearfishing, or, you know, like sustain yourself off of this, it's not convenient. Like, you're not going on your time. You're having to like look at these weather windows and whatnot. And then when you do get a fish, you know, or if you're a hunter and you get a deer or a pig or whatever it is, or even if you're a farmer and you harvest everything from your lo'i, whatever it is, it's like, that doesn't mean the job is done. Like, no. Then it means like you got to take a day or two and cancel all plans, because you owe it to your harvest to see it through. And so whether it's like, now you got to like, you know, you kind of be going out with friends or doing this or that, like you have fish to clean, you have fish to cook, like you have kalo to peel, you have, you know, a whole pig to take apart, like whatever it is, it's like, it's going to interrupt your schedule. It's going to interrupt your time. And if you're going to do it right, where you're truly paying respect to your harvest, it's going to rearrange your life. And I think that that's just not the way that we're trained to operate.
Yeah, but it makes you more grateful for a lot of things. I think we a lot of times people just want that instant gratification. Like, even when I was living in the middle of nowhere, we had to, you know, get water from a well, do so many things to take a shower, take a bucket bath. It makes you really appreciate like how easy it is, like just turning a knob.
Yes.
And we have hot water.
No, and that's exactly it. Like, people, you know, when they think of a simple life, I think they can get it confused with what you just said, an easy life. And it's not the same. Simple does not equal easy. You know, simple means you got a lot of work to do all the time for these very, very simple things. But it really does simplify your priorities. And to me, that's one of the most refreshing things like in the world.
Yeah. Do you eat fast food?
I don't, but I mean, not a judger or anything, and I definitely used to once upon a time. But no.
Okay.
Well, not for a long time.
Yeah, same. Ever since I got back from Madagascar, I don't eat fast food. I don't eat anywhere that's not local. So I was just wondering. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I haven't. I can't even think of the last time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because I think you just realize at some point we're just chasing the convenience of it all.
Totally.
That's really all it is.
Yeah.
It's not easier. It's just more convenient. All right. So sorry about that. I just got off on a tangent real quick. But okay. So next question comes from Mikhiroi, Mikhiroi. She wants to know, what advice would you give a young woman who wants to start spearfishing and freediving?
I would just say, if you can find a partner, I mean, I know that's kind of the hardest thing, but like, if you could find a partner who has the same interest as you, or at least willing to support your goal, that's huge. Like, to have somebody there with you. And if you can't, just go slow. No matter what, partner or no partner, go slow. Don't feel like you have to achieve any certain goals on any certain swim or dive or anything like that. Like, just focus on getting comfortable in the ocean and experiencing it. And if you just focus on that every single time, the lessons will come and the progress will too. But stretch it out. Don't rush.
Yeah. Take your time.
Yeah.
When you feel like you have to speed up,
slow down. Exactly.
Love that. Love that so much. Okay. So last one. Well, actually, let's do a quick rapid fire question. This yes or no for these certain questions, because you have so many questions.
Okay.
I've never had this many questions. Granted, it's a third episode, but
I'm gonna try not to be long-winded. Then I like this rapid fire.
Yeah.
Stuff.
And then I'm gonna save the last one that I really like. It's my favorite question.
Cool.
Okay. What is your favorite piece of cookware? This comes from Mystic's Mermaid. What is your favorite piece of cookware?
Cast iron pan.
Okay. Let's see. Where am I? Would you consider cooking class on how to clean, identify, cook fish?
Yes.
Okay, well, stay tuned. That came from Color Me Green. And then Dillians asked, please ask when her plus Justin are going to make more cute children, but he's the cutest.
Oh, that's a good question. No plans yet.
Okay, no plans yet. Stay tuned. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, maybe you'll see. And then, are you going to make more YouTube channels? YouTube videos, sorry.
We have one in the wings, just one. So there will be one more episode at least.
Okay, awesome. And then Sydney got, I think she has multiple questions. One country or province/state you'd like to dive fish that you haven't been able to yet?
Ooh, good question. My mind just goes to places that I've been. Where have I not been that I would like to go?
Have you been to Madagascar?
No.
That should be on everyone's radar.
Okay.
It's beautiful. Let me know when you go. I'll go there with you. I'll show you the amazing. Here, it's on my book. I'm going to give you this later.
Okay, yes. And I will just say yes to that.
Such a low-key, amazing place. Yeah. And great fishing as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so Madagascar. Kind of told you to go. Okay, and then the last one. This one comes from VA_Vahoff. What's the one or couple of things you would hope Buddy has learned from you?
Well, I know he's so young, so I don't want to put all this pressure on him, but I would definitely...
Buddy, if you're listening to this when you're older, you got some big shoes to fill.
But I think, like, the main thing I would want him to learn from me is that he belongs, and I think that's, like, when I reflect back to, why these early childhood memories of, technically being poor but being so happy, like, why they haunted me my whole life is because, without even knowing it, I think my parents and the way that they brought me up really gave me this sense of belonging. Whether it was from helping them get the food that nourished us, or just the loving care they gave me, or just being immersed in nature. Like I said, I never felt poor. I never felt all these like negative things. I very much just felt rich. I felt this sense of belonging that you can't even buy. And when I was out, you know, like technically it's like in the bushes by my house. I'd like to say forest, but basically in the bushes. I loved it. Like I never felt alone. Like all the trees were my friends. I talked to the rocks, you know, like everything around me. I had some sort of connection, a deep connection to. And I think that's why when we did kind of trade in that life for a life of convenience, I felt the loss, you know. But nonetheless, it was something that as long as I returned to nature, as long as I returned to these outdoor spaces, I could feel that same sense of belonging. And I do feel like it's that connection essentially guided me to where I was going in life. And has, and I'm not just talking like national championships and stuff. I'm just talking like core values. You know, it guided me in life with a whole bunch of decision making. That when I really look at it, I think it gave me this inner compass that when I truly am able to listen to it and say like, you know, to hell with what everyone else thinks about me, which is the hardest thing to say, no matter what. Yeah. It's still hard, but like...
It's especially harder when you become more popular and, you know, you have all these eyes
more
looking upon you.
More people thinking stuff about you.
She's criticized for everything you do.
Completely. Yeah. And I'm not immune to it. I definitely, like, still, like, worry about it. But at the same time, it's like, I also have learned over time that when I dig deep enough to listen to that true inner compass that comes from this true sense of belonging, when I listen to that inner voice, it doesn't waver. Like it doesn't waver from getting me to exactly where I need to go. And so it's all kind of deep, but that's what I want Buddy to know, is I want him to know that he belongs, and that long after, you know, I'm gone, that he can find that connection in the trees and the rocks and the ocean, wherever it is that he finds it, and that his guidance can always come from within.
Amazing. Beautiful. Yeah. So, Buddy, you got a bright future ahead of you. Oh, so mahalo for the Instagram questions. Great questions. And, you know, make sure you answer the Instagram poll or questionnaire and whatever it's called next time, and maybe your question will make it on the podcast. So I also like to do a local business shout out because we're all about supporting local at Hawaiiverse. You also have a business, right? Keep It Wild.
Keep Wild.
Keep Wild. Keep Wild. Yeah.
Anyway, but Keep
Wild. So make sure you check that out. I still have my utensil kit from your baby shower. I keep it in my car. So this one I want to shout out Chart House Waikiki. I don't know, have you ever been there?
I have.
Awesome.
Yes.
So they're gifting you a gift card.
For me?
This is for you, yeah.
Oh, no
Maybe
way.
you and Justin can have a date night.
Oh my gosh, awesome.
Yeah, here you go.
Thank you so much.
I suggest the ahi mignon. I don't know if you've ever had that, or the bison mignon.
Goodness.
It's amazing. Like one of the best things I've ever had. So yeah, make sure you go check that out. And so every time the episode comes out, we pair it with a giveaway. So the next giveaway when this episode comes out, it'll be paired with a Chart House giveaway and a Vida Mia concert ticket. So Vida Mia is this yacht here in they're based in Waikiki, and they've started doing this live concert, like live intimate sunset cruise concerts. And Chart House is a partner. My friend Ashton with Creative Natives, he's a partner. So make sure you check them out. Vida Mia, Chart House, Creative Natives, all local things, just local businesses doing amazing things. So go give them some love. And then we've come to the end of the podcast.
Yay.
So where can we find you? If people already haven't put off to the side of the road, or pause this and looked you up on Instagram or Google.
On Instagram, I'm Kimi Swimmy, KIMI_Swimmy, SWMMY. I have a website, KimiWerner.com, and our YouTube is just Kimi Werner. But yeah, I think those are the main places to find what we're putting out there in the world.
Okay, yeah. So go check it out. You will not be disappointed. And actually, one last question, because I think this is a really cool question to ask. So, you're all about the underwater world. What about space? Would you ever want to go to space?
I'd be so stoked to go to space. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think it could happen?
I mean, I do think it's going to happen within our lifetime. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking, how can we get you to space?
Whether or not it's me or not, but I definitely think a lot more space travel is going to be happening. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And one more thing. Sorry, I just have all these things coming to my mind. What's one skill that you would want to add to your repertoire?
Like fantasy kind?
No, anything. Like if you could just learn one skill, what would it be? Like that you don't have.
Well, I would love to have like a real good sense of like rhythm and like, musical talent, but I feel like that's almost like a far-fetched fantasy. But
well, I mean, if you can learn to be fearless, I'm sure you can learn how to have rhythm.
That would be just really fun and creative.
Yeah. Awesome. So I guess it's time for us to go. And
although I would also just like to fly.
Fly, okay.
Yeah.
That's also cool if that was you fly underwater.
True. Yeah. Or maybe one day in space.
In space.
In my lifetime.
Okay.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Yeah, let's see. NASA, if you're listening to this, let's make it happen. Okay, so make sure you check out all these local businesses on Hawaiiverse.com. Make sure you check out Kimi. Hawaiiverse is the best place to support local, so yeah, let's keep it local. Spread aloha, be kind to one another, and of course, like I just said, support local all day, every day. I'm your host, Kamaka. Mahalo so much, Kimi.
Mahalo,
you're awesome.
to you.
And you'll hear me next time on the Hawaiiverse podcast. Ahui ho.